Hey everyone, this is Benjamin Atkinson here with IBIS Inc. I'm here to talk to you guys today. A couple tips and tricks for getting the most out of your analysis cubes. It's going to be mostly a demo today, not much of a PowerPoint. The way you can learn it is really to see it yourselves. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go through a couple things with connecting to analysis cubes, viewing some open connections. It's always helpful when you open a sheet for the first time and want to know what's all connected. Referencing multiple connections, selecting field headers for easier use and easier filtering. One of the things, table sorting versus column row sorting, is always a question that comes up, so we'll go ahead and answer that. Sorting values, filtering values, and then we'll go into some cooler things like slicers, spark lines, adding in charts, and turning a table into cube formulas. And that will really be able to get your data and be able to sort through a lot easier. You can display it a lot better. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we have a blank Excel sheet going on. First thing we want to do is connect to some cubes. So we'll go to data from other sources. You want to go ahead and go from the analysis server, and you'll need your server name. If you don't know your server name, most likely your IT group will know it, or your Dynamics partner. So we'll go ahead and type that in. And usually you'll be set up with Windows authentication. So we'll go on and get through it. Alright, so it'll display the cubes that we have had installed. What we're looking at, we see financials, inventory, payables, purchases, receivables, and sales. We'll go ahead and take a look at purchases for the time being. Your first trick is it's a long friendly name down there, so if you're ever using cube formulas or anything else of that nature, especially if you're just going into existing connections to pick a new cube that you've already connected to, the best thing to do is name it something shorter, something that you can remember. That's easier. So for the time being, we'll just do purchases demo. And we'll click finish. And it'll go ahead and ask me where I want to put the pivot table that is connecting to the cube. We'll click OK. We're good with A1. So connecting to analysis cubes, that's kind of a tip or trick. Rename it short so you can really reference it a lot easier and remember it a lot easier than having to go through and read the server name, GP analysis cubes, and then what you're looking for. Moving on, let's say you open this for the first time, there's already data in it, and you want to see what's connected to it. You'll go to data, click on connections, and you'll be able to see exactly what we're connecting to. In this sheet right now, it's purchases demo, which is the one we just connected to, nothing else. You can remove them, you can add a connection from here, you can refresh. There's a lot of items you can do within this connections screen. And then we can also have multiple connections to separate cubes in one sheet. You don't just have to be on purchases. We can connect to something else like sales or another purchases pivot table if we really want to. And we'll go ahead and start doing that a little later when we get more in depth. So next thing we want to do is take a look at the field headers. We really want to select field headers and make it a lot easier on us so we don't have to sort through all of this stuff. Understanding what all this stuff is really good. It makes it a lot easier to navigate. First thing I want to show you here is the show fields. You have pending purchase orders and purchase order detail. Pending purchase orders is usually purchase orders that haven't been processed yet, haven't been posted. Purchase order detail are those that have been posted. They're in history, tables, that sort of nature. You do typically get errors when you kind of mix the two between each other. So if you were to get some sort of field from pending purchase orders and some sort of field from purchase order detail, they don't match up real well and it throws a bunch of errors. So what you want to do is go ahead from the get-go and sort what you're looking for. So we're looking for purchase order detail. We want to see what's already posted out there. Let's go ahead and create our list here. So usually at the very top, you'll have your values. We'll take a look at the cost going down. We'll go ahead and take a look at the vendor names. And what the vendor names does, what shows you there with the triangles, is actually a hierarchy. So what our hierarchy is doing is saying all vendors with A will be grouped under the A here. So you can see all A Travel Company, Advanced Office Systems, things of that nature. And if you don't want that, then you go just into more fields and just grab, we just want the vendor name. You can grab it from there. So anything with a drop down by it is a hierarchy. If you don't want that, you just go into more fields and grab your single attribute, what you want. So right now we're looking at extended cost, all in history for all of these, the vendors, and we want to go ahead and take a look at some other items. So let's say we want to see it as well by our buyer ID. I don't think that should bring up anything, but it is empty. But let's say there was something there, and we want to see buyer ID not under a travel company, but we want to see it next to it, so we can just take a look in more of a list. So what we will do is highlight a travel company, go to field settings, layout and print, and show items in tabular form. And what that does is moves it over so we can see it in a better layout rather than have to look at it under. And if you don't want that subtotal there, you just right click it, unclick subtotal. There you go. It's a beautiful table now. Easier to understand, easier to look at, easier to see your data. And so that's kind of the gist of field headers. Making sure you have the right ones. So you're not crossing pending purchase orders with purchase order detail, because that might throw an error. Being able to view it, understanding that some of these are hierarchies, and if you don't want them, you can grab your single attributes down below. Also, over here you can mess around with the fields so that they display a lot more properly. Moving on, another thing is table sorting versus column row sorting. We get this question a lot when we install cubes and start building, is when would you actually filter in this filter box right here where my cursor is versus actually out here on the rows. So let's go ahead and set up a new table here. So right here, we'd be filtering on the columns by clicking 2014, or going here and searching through it this way to sort what we want to see in the columns, how the date displays. So now we're looking at vendors, how much they owe, or how much is outstanding, extended cost, and also by date. And we're filtering on the column label. And people ask, when would you want to filter on the column label versus when would you want to filter on the filters up top? And the answer to that is, the reason you'd want to try and filter up top, if you're trying to filter the whole entire table right at once, it's a lot more efficient. The queries that happen on the background, accessing the cubes and pulling that data, to be able to filter from the top right here, it filters the whole table at once versus the columns. So if you're trying to filter the whole entire table to see a certain date or a certain range of dates, you'd want to do it from the filters first before you do it from the columns. Columns is a more fine-tuned filtering. And so if you have a lot of data and you do it from the column, all the filtering from the column, you will end up waiting a long time for them the queries to process. So it's just a faster, more efficient way, if you can, to be able to filter from the top. If that's not an option, you can't really go with that, that's fine. But if you generally are just filtering for one date or a range of dates, you can filter from up here. Moving on, we're going to be looking at now sorting values, filtering values, all of that within the actual table itself. So what we want to do now, we have here our vendors and the extended cost, and we want to see what the top 10 vendors are. So what you want to do is go to row labels, and you have a bunch of sort options, label filters, value filters that you can use to kind of access and see the data the way you want. So if you go to sort options, we want to see the vendor with the highest extended cost moving downwards. So we'll go descending. And you can do it by vendor name, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or you can do it by extended cost detail. And we'll go ahead and do it that way. So now we're seeing the top vendor, Convex Inc., at 202,000 all the way down. And then what we're also looking at now, we want to see the top 10. So what we'll go to is value filters, and you have a lot of options to filter your values. You can do equals, it's not equal if you're looking for a certain value, greater than or equal to, all your normal expressions. Then you have a top 10 down here. So for the time being, we'll just take a look at the top 10 by yourselves. You can kind of play around and practice with everything else. So we can do top or bottom, 10, 11. We'll do 5, so you can set all these parameters. And now items would be just the line item itself. We can do items, we can do percent, we can do sum if there's multiple things we're looking at. So we'll do top 10% on the extended cost detail. And it also pulls in a lot more from over here, your value filters. So you can actually do it on other things that haven't been pulled in here yet, which is kind of nice. We'll just keep it the extended cost detail. Click OK, and there you go. Your top 10% is convex. And so that's kind of a short way to get at the data you're looking for through filtering and sorting. And if you're done sorting and filtering, you see what you need to see, you can clear your filter. Now moving on to slicers. These guys are really cool. Let me go ahead and do some reference another pivot table. I said we'd do this a little later. This would be the time. So we'll go to Data, Existing Connections. I want to take a look at the purchases demo as well. I'll go ahead and do this kind of a similar table. We'll take a look at vendor name again, and we'll take a look at this time. We'll take a look at the pending purchase orders. We'll take a look at extended cost pending. So what we're going to do, and we'll take this date out on the filters. What we want to do is take a look at a way where we can sort both these tables at once. And if you're building a dashboard, the next couple of things we're going to talk about are very nice for dashboards. So take a look at the slicer real quick. And so you'll select one of your pivot tables, and they'll pull up a list of things you can slice by. These really are very similar to the filters that we just talked about, except it gives you a cooler display of it. So we want to take a look at once again, the date. We'll just do the month. And so it gives you this cool little box where you can click on, we want to see April 2014, and it shows that, or May 2014, they'll show you exactly your vendor and the extended cost pending based on the date you click here. And so you can do a couple cool things with it. First off, you can make it so that it shows items with no data, so you don't have all those others. You just have exactly what has data in it. Another thing you can do is reference the two tables together. So if we go to Report Connections, and this pivot table 1 is unchecked, if we check it, it is now a part of it. So in May 2015, there was no data for extended cost detail, but it was for pending. For February 2016, you can see they both change. Very cool thing to incorporate in your dashboards. It makes it easier for users just to go there and click what they're looking for, and be able to change multiple tables and get multiple tables displaying different data. Moving on to Sparklines, I'm actually going to move to a new sheet and connect to a new cube just to go ahead and show you guys that again with the whole connecting to analysis services. Once again, you'll type in your database name and it will connect. So we'll take a look at sales this time. And this time I skipped the naming part, just for the quick getting through it. What we're going to look at, we'll see extended price, how much they sold for, pending, and we'll take a look at customers and customer name. So here's all the customers and the pending extended price out there. What we're going to want to see is a Sparkline, so let me put in a date. And we'll look at it by and see what it has in by year. We'll do month. So here's the months. And what we want to do, let's say we want to see a trending line over the grand total of the month. This is when a Sparkline comes in handy. We'll go insert, and you have a couple other things you can use like win-loss, columns, but we'll go ahead and do a Sparkline. So it asks what the data range is, and we want the whole table here. And the location range. And we click OK. We should get Sparklines. There's one right there. It's very small. The data is not the best because there's only one in most of these. So this one has multiple, in which you can see the spark line right there, barely, or this one. But that's how you do the spark line. You can see a trend. Let me do it to the side as well so you can see a little better. So you can see some of those trending lines right there. And that's how you be able to kind of take a look at the trending line over time really easily. Another cool thing to really incorporate in your dashboards. Moving on to adding in charts. Very simple. We'll go ahead and go back here since this is already set up for a good chart. We'll select a couple of these. Alright, so we want to take a look at the chart here. Once again on the extended cost. So we'll go to Insert, and we'll go ahead and give us a pivot chart option. Then go ahead and click Pivot Chart, and we want to see a pie chart. And so what you have here is your pie chart, with Convex obviously dominating it because they have 70,000 versus everything else, so it's very hard to see the slices. But as you change, if you clear out the filter, as you change, the pie chart will also change because it's connected to that pivot table, which is very cool. So your pie chart will change along with your splicer when you click it. Another cool thing to kind of integrate a dashboard, so you can click on just the things you want to see and it just splices all the data. Last thing I want to show you guys today is going to be getting into the advanced cube functions. The only way you can actually access the cubes through a pivot table. You can actually access the cubes through straight functions, pulling out, kind of shooting a function straight to the cube itself and asking information back. And so those, with that, I guess, functionality, you're able to even get deeper in with cubes and be able to access even more data or display it in a lot more options than just using pivot tables and pivot charts. So a good starting point is sometimes to make what you want to see and change it into a cube formula and then work from there and kind of splice it and do whatever you want with it. Cube formulas are a little bit more complicated for the scope of this webinar, so we'll just show you how to kind of convert it into cube formulas and then we'll go from there. So we'll go ahead and select your pivot table you want to convert, and it'll give you the pivot table tools up top, and you'll just click Analyze, and it'll have an OLAP tools. And we're using, just to preface this, we're using Microsoft Excel 2013. With other versions, some of these will be in other places, and some of them might, if you have a very older version of Excel, you might not even have this functionality. But in 2013, it's under Analyze, OLAP tools, and you can convert to formulas. So what this does now is convert it to formulas. So if you see my formula bar up there now, it's no longer a pivot table, it's an actual formula for cubes. So that's another nice way to go ahead and convert it to formulas and then be able to, if you know cube formulas, kind of display it the way you want to. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope this kind of gave you an opening of showing you how you can actually build dashboards and all the tools out there for you. All of them are pretty much native to Excel, which is nice, especially if you're an Excel nerd like me. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully this gives you an idea to go out there on your next visit to build cubes. You'll use some of these tools or some of these shortcuts